Thank you. I think most of us here do know Jataayu ji already. He is an avid reader and he is very knowledgeable about Hinduism and cultural issues. He writes about it in Tamil and in English. He runs a website called tamilhindu.com and publishes a magazine called Balam. Today he will be talking about Thiruvasagam, or the spiritual hymns to Shiva.
Varnanam arthasanghanam rasanam chandasamapi mangalanam chakartarau vande vani vinayakau vagartha viva sampruptau vagartha pratipattaye jagata Pitarau vande Parvati Parameshwarau Tollai irumbiravi Suzhum tadai neekki Allallaruthu ஆனந்தமாக்கியதே எல்லை மறுவா நெறியடிக்கும் வாதவூர் எங்கோன் திருவாசகம் என்னும் தேன். Good evening to all of you. So we are here in a satsang to relish and contemplate on this very popular and celebrated Tamil literary devotional text called the Thiruvasagam. So let me start with a hymn from Thiruvasagam. Do not sip honey from a small flower of the size of a millet seed. You humming bee, do not sip honey from a small flower of the size of a millet seed. Tinai tunai ullador puvinil ten unnade. Whenever we think of him, behold or speak of him, honey of bliss overflows forever, dissolving us, melting our very bones. To him, the dancer, the cosmic dancer, go and breathe his praise, you humming bee. So this is a poem called Tirukottumbi in Thiruvasagam. So here the sage addresses the humming bee. He says, Tinai tunai ullador puvinil ten unnade. You humming bee, why are you sipping honey from a small flower that's the size of a millet seed? That is a very big flower, beyond imagination, which is the honey of bliss overflows forever in that flower. What is that flower? It is Shiva. What is his nature? Ninaithorum, Kandhorum, Pesundorum, Yappodum, Anaithelumbu ul nega, Ananda ten suriyum, Kunippudayanake. Whenever we think of him, we behold him, we see his form in a temple or in our own hearts. Honey of bliss overflows forever. So much so that it dissolves us. It melts our very bones. He says, Anaithu elumbu ul nega, Ananda ten suriyum, Kunippudayanake. Why don't you breathe his praise? Because, for the humming bee, it doesn't need to sing. its very breath is like a song, right? So, oh hummingbee, why don't you breathe his praise? So this is a poem with which I start. So what does this poem really mean? So who is the hummingbee? The hummingbee is the jiva, the human persona, the human soul, which is going flower after flower. Each is of the size of a millet seed, and trying to see if it can really get a honey that is so full of bliss, which is non-ending, but it never succeeds. It will never succeed unless it gets to the big flower, the cosmic flower, where the unending bliss flows as honey. So we can think of that hummingbee as us, our mind, or every jiva that is stuck in this samsara. So this is one of the famous poems in Thiruvasagam. So I just start with this. So this text called Thiruvasagam, it literally means the sacred utterance. Thiru plus Vachakam. Vachaka means utterance. So in the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, there is a sutra, Pranavas Tasya Vachakaha. Pranava is his utterance, says Patanjali. Pranava is Om. Om is the utterance, the very utterance of the divine. So Thiru is a prefix, that is an equivalent of Shri in Sanskrit, right? So you have so many names of places here, Thiruvannamalai, Tirunelveli, Thiruvarur. In Kerala we have Thiruvananthapuram. So Thiruvachakam means the holy. The Thiru is the word which is associated with holiness. So the holy utterance, that's what it means. So the author of this work is called Manika Vachakar. So what does that mean? So Manika means ruby. The red ruby is called Manikam in our languages. So he whose utterances are like ruby. So that's what is the meaning of the word Manika Vachakar. So obviously, ruby is a precious stone and a gem, and it is considered rare. So the sage who gave us this text, he is also called with the appropriate name, Manikya Vachaka. So he lived somewhere around 9th to 11th century Common Era. So like most of the Indian spiritual personalities, the exact dating, just like Adi Shankara or other people, cannot be done very accurately. We just know that somewhere between 9th and 11th century Common Era he lived. He was born in a place called Thiruvadavur near Madurai, and he merged into Shiva in Chidambaram, which is not very far from here. And I am sure all of you are familiar with the holy place and temple called Chidambaram. So his life is traditionally narrated in a Purana-like style, not like a biography of a historical, though he was a historical personality, absolutely no doubt about it. But his life is narrated more in a Purana style, which is again the Indic way of presenting the life of great men. The names and dates and the exact, it's not really like a diary or like a chronicle of events, but such great spiritual personalities, what their life spiritually means to us, that's what has been the main import of all this Puranic style narration of life. And this Thiruvasagam itself, it contains about 51 chapters and about 658 verses. So it's not like a very big text. It's as big as Srimad Bhagavad Gita, which has 700 verses. And it is part of a holy Shiva scripture collection in Tamil. It's called Thirumurai. So there are 11 Thirumurais. So 11 books or 11 collections composed by various sages. Together they are called Shiva Thirumurai, and Thiruvasagam is designated as the 8th Thirumurai. And out of all these, all the texts in this Shiva collection, Thiruvasagam is considered the most holy and the most celebrated. So there is a proverb in Tamil which goes, Thiruvasagatthukku urugar, Uruvasagatthukkum urugar. Meaning, if someone whose heart doesn't melt for the utterance of Thiruvasagam, that won't melt for any other utterance. That's what it means. And the way it is chanted, it's always chanted in a very tearful and ecstasy-filled style. So, the first, I will just chant the first few lines of the text, which is called the Shiva Purana. Namachivaya Varga, Nadan Talvarga, Imai Poludum Yen Ninjil, Ningadan Talvarga, Kogadiyanda, Guru Manidan Talvarga, Agamam Magi Nindru, Annippan Talvarga, Yegan Anegan, Iraivanadi Varga, Vegam Keduttanda, Vendanadi Velga. This is how it goes. So the traditional chanters, they always kind of chant with a slightly choked voice so that it brings out that feeling of ecstasy and emotion. So that it is intended to melt the heart of the listener who can understand its meaning. So the story of Manikavasagar, which I told you, it's a very, very interesting story. So let's first, go over that before we delve into the text. So there was, his original name was Thiruvasagam, named after the town where he was born. He was born in a lineage and clan of a class of Brahmins called Amatya Brahmins. So Amatya actually means minister in Sanskrit. So these were the clan and community of Brahmins who were not only scholarly and religious, but they were also knowledgeable about the administration, the governance, and even warfare and other duties that are associated with the royalty. So these were special class of Brahmins called Amatya Brahmins. So he was born, and in line with the tradition of that community, so he was highly educated. He learnt the Vedas and Tamil and every other Shastra that was there. And his fame spread. So the Pandya king in the capital city of his country, Madurai, Varaguna Pandyan. So he requested this person, Vadavuran, to be his minister and help him in administration and everything. So Vadavuran gladly accepted, and filled with so much of knowledge, both the spiritual and the secular domain, he immersed himself in the duties of the minister. But for his everyday ritual worship, his mind was completely focused on the administration and the dispensing the royal duties. So once the king felt that the infantry, right, the horse-borne army needs to be expanded. So they need more horses to be purchased. and the horses were, the best of the horses were available in far off lands like Wahlika, which is the current day Gulf and Arab region. So the horses used to be brought in ships and they were sold in both the eastern and western coasts of India in exchange for things like pearls, precious gems, spice. It was the famous, the trade that was happening. So the king requested Vadavooran to go and get the best of the horses from the eastern coast. He handed over a huge cash and all the material and sent a group of soldiers along with him, go acquire the best of the horses for our infantry. So the Vadavooran set out with a big entourage, and from Madurai, when he was heading towards the east coast, which would be somewhere around the Ramanathapuram, Rameshwaram region of today. So he was going town after town, and everywhere people received him because he was a minister, so with honors. And when he was passing by one place called Thiruperundurai, he just saw a sea. It was a very, very simple, a kind of a rustic village. There was a big tree, a peepal tree, a variety of the peepal tree. In Tamil it is called Kurunda Maram actually. So there was a holy man sitting at the tree, and there were 4 disciples who were seated below. And the man was not speaking anything, he was just sitting there. And the disciples were all in silence. The moment Vadavooran saw this scene, he just got down off the horse and his legs were drawn towards that tree. So he just went there and he sat as the 5th disciple. Still the Guru was not speaking anything. And as the Puranic legend goes, all the disciples bowed to that Guru, and when Vadavooran went and he bowed, the Guru put his right leg on his head. So it is called Shri Pada Diksha in the Shiva tradition. So the Guru just placed his right leg on Vadavooran's head, and that moment, out of the connection of the previous births, or because he was, till that day, he was lost and he had almost forgotten his divine nature. So the Vadavooran was just transfixed. So he forgot everything. And just the bliss of Shivanubhava that entered into his day. In the life of many people, right? I mean, in the modern context, Narendranath Datta, who was so full of doubt, he was so full of adamant and rational thinking, he was always arguing with his Guru, Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. There was one moment where Ramakrishna just touched him, and Vivekananda later described it that I didn't even know what was happening at that moment. It was as if some huge current of shock that was running through my body, and from that day I was a different person. So that's how a modern spiritual guru like Vivekananda describes this kind of experience. But we read about it in the lives of many holy men and sages in our the Hindu tradition, the medieval ages, as well as our ancient texts. So Vadavooran became a changed man. He forgot about the horses, he forgot about the ministerial job, he forgot about the king, everything. So he started preoccupying himself with the meditation, singing the praises of Shiva, and all the material that he had brought, he spent all of them lavishly in feeding the poor, feeding the devotees of Shiva. He built a big temple. He started feeding the devotees and bhaktas on a daily basis. So the army and the other entourage that had followed him, they couldn't understand what happened to this man. Obviously, they are under his command. They cannot oppose him. So they waited for some time, and then they went back to the king. And the news reached the king's ears. And there were always the other ministers and people who were jealous of Vadavooran from the beginning. They said, this guy is a lunatic. From the beginning we knew that he was not a man of sharp intellect and alertness to be handed over with such a job. So we hear that he has completely swindled all your money. He is behaving like a madman. So the king got somewhat infuriated. So he sent his emissaries, and he told them, just go ask him, when are the horses coming, and tell me what he says. So these emissaries went, and there the Vadavooran was immersed in the bliss of Shivanubhava. So someone came and asked him, sir, the king is asking, when are the horses coming? So then some voice was heard from the inside of Vadavooran. So he said, oh, the horses will come on the Moolam star of Avani month, he said. So it is that's how the dates were calculated in the Hindu calendar. So Avani is Shravan. So, in the month of Shravan, on the day of Moolam star, the horses will come. So these words just came out of his lips. So the emissaries faithfully took those words. So they went to the king and they said, sir, we all went. We saw Vadavooran completely into devotional practices, religious practices. We just asked him, and he just said that in the month of Avani, on the Moolam star, the horses are coming. Okay, then the king looked at the calendar. Oh, that's not very far. Okay, maybe, without you guys knowing anything, he was onto something. He was striking a deal with an Arab trader for the best of the horses. I knew that Vadavooran was an intelligent man, so let us wait. So I won't punish him or do anything to him. Let's wait till the Moolam star of the Avani month. And then, so the day broke on that Shravan month, Moolam day, and at the gates of Madurai city, there was a big commotion. So the people ran to the king and the Senapati, the commander of the army. We see a huge crowds, and there are about hundreds of horses at the gates of our city, and they are all accompanied by the Ashwarohi, meaning the horse-mounted soldiers who are well built, who are looking majestic. So our minister has not just got the horses, he has also got the best of the horsemen. And then the news spread, and the king himself came out, and the horses were, as the word went, the horses were the best of the breed. They were of white color, black and brown, and the whole city was filled with the sounds of the horses, and and the sand raised by the hoofs of those horses filled the air. That's how those descriptions go in literature. And the chief horse commander, the king looked at his face and he was mesmerized. what a beauty, what a majesty. I have never seen a man so good looking. Just leave all the horses. Just leave everything. That chief horseman, oh, I can keep looking at his face all the time. So the king lost himself looking at the chief horseman. So the man got down off the horse. So he bowed to the king and he said, Your Majesty, here are the horses that you wanted. And then he performed a lot of acrobatics. So, there was a big demonstration of the horse tricks, so to speak, in front of the king. And the king was immensely pleased. And then the chief horseman said, So my duty is over. You may go tie the horses in your stables. He bowed to the king and then he walked back. And he gave the whip, the whip that he was holding to guide the horses. So he gave it in king's hands and he walked away. So the king's soldiers, they took the horses, they just tied it into the poles. And there were so many horses that they could not, the royal stables were not enough to accommodate them. So even outside, all these horses were tied and the king went to sleep with great satisfaction. And then the night started advancing. The moon rose on the eastern sky and it was approaching around the midnight, the Ardhanishi as they call it. It was around 12 at midnight and slowly that kind of howls started appearing. The whole people were wondering where is this howling coming from? So when they followed the sound, it led to the royal stables. And lo and behold, there were hundreds of foxes in the stable. They were howling and they were making the people of the Madurai mad through their howl. There was howling all over the place and the foxes just got out of the royal stable. They were running over the whole town and everyone was wonderstruck and they were like, what happened to all those horses? They all turned into foxes overnight. What is this happening? And then the foxes just howled their way into the nearby forest and they just vanished. So obviously, the king was woken up and he was given this bad news and he himself from his balcony saw a lot of foxes running in the streets of his city. And so he immediately commanded, he called for all the ministers and they said, Sir, we knew this all along. This man, he has just done some black magic. He took all the horses out of the forest surrounding Madurai. He just did a black magic to make them appear as horses just for a day. He has completely made an ass out of all of us. He must be punished. So then the king sent his soldiers. They arrested Vadavooran. He was brought into the city. He was made to stand in the hot sun on the sands of the Vaigai river that flows in Madurai, chained to his body. So nothing bothered him. So when the soldiers approached him that king wants to arrest you, okay, he said, Shiva, Shiva, he said, and handed himself over to the soldiers. He was standing in the hot sun, chained. He was singing praises of Shiva all along. When something happens like this, the Puranas say that Shiva himself couldn't bear the suffering of his devotee. So the river Vaigai suddenly got flooded. The flood was so much that it is pretty much like some of the flooding situation that we hear in Indian cities occasionally. You know, it happened in Chennai few years back. The water entered into the streets and houses of people. There was huge flooding, and the king just didn't know how to control this flood. And then there were drum beats all over the city, asking people to come. Everybody should put their work and contribution to build, to stop the water flow by putting sand over it. Everybody has to send one person. This is a royal order. No household is barred from this royal command. Every household should send at least one well-built, muscular man to work towards this urgent need of putting a check dam over the Vaigai river. So people were carrying their crowbars and those, all the equipments necessary to build the check dam. So the whole city was into that work. And there was this very old lady called Vanti. So she didn't have anyone. She was making a living by making this delicious dish called puttu. So in Kerala we have this kind of puttu, right? So it is made, so there is a tube like thing, it's called kurai puttu. So they put this rice, sometimes jaggery, coconut, everything into a tube. It made it into a nice cake-like thing, tubular cakes. It's a very delicious dish. And she was making a living by just selling this puttu in the city. And the soldiers of the king approached her. Where is your man? You know, either you yourself come and do king's work, or you pay someone, you hire a laborer from your side. These are royal orders. So she was lamenting, oh, what can I do? I am myself living a miserable life, just making my ends meet. How can I do this? Then she saw a young boy walking around. So he came to this old lady Vanti and said, Amma, I will do your work. Oh, is it? Raja, come. That is very nice of you, but I cannot pay you any wages. I am myself so poor. So will you do work? Will you still do my work? So then the boy answered, okay, Amma, give me some puttu. That itself is like a wage. I will take it and I will do your work. So then this old lady gave him some puttu. So the boy ate it. And then he went with the soldier, and everybody was so busy. They were digging sand from one place, putting it in another place. There was huge commotion all over. This boy went. So he had this basket, and he had this. It's called manvetti. One that you earth mover, the old style earth mover, which you. It looks like a axe like thing, right? Spade, exactly. So he just put the basket and the spade on one side. He just dived into the river. He started swimming, and then he had a nice swim for some time. Then he came, he danced, he just slept for some time. This is how he was contributing to king's work. So obviously the soldiers, the inspectors, they just can't tolerate this behavior. So they went and complained to the king again, sir, everyone is working, but there is this young boy who has come as an agent of this old lady called Vandi. This fellow is simply not doing anything, and he is also spoiling the work environment at the dam site. You yourself should come and teach him and do as appropriate. So the king came. So he himself saw, how the boy was generally making merry and not doing anything. He called the boy. Why are you not working? The boy just smiled. And again the king looked at the boy's face. Oh, what a face. What a beauty. I can keep looking at it all the time, he felt. But at the next moment, oh, this boy needs to be taught a lesson. So he took up the stick that he had, which was like laced with golden the golden decorated with gold, the staff. So he took it and he just gave a blow to the boy at his back. So the moment the boy got a beating, everyone at that side, they said. Everyone there got a beating. The animals got a beating. The birds got a beating. Every being in the world was just beaten for a moment and said, That's how the story goes. And even the king just gave a blow at the boy's back, and then he said, it's his back that was hurting. Where is this boy? The king saw. And at a far side, he saw the boy diving into the river and disappearing. Then the king and the flood, it just receded as it came. So then the king came running to Auroville, and he bowed at his feet and he said, Sir, it is for your devotion that the Lord came as a horseman. It is just to save you, the devotee, that he came to this city. He ate this humble food, the puttu, and he just acted out as a laborer, and he gave darshan to me. The moment I saw him for the first time, I must have realized, but I didn't. So please pardon me. So then he freed Auroville and he said, You are a divine personality, and it was what you did was appropriate. And then the Auroville became Manikavasagar. So he became a sage. He started going all around singing praises of Shiva, and he gave, and all slowly he reached this holy town of Chidambaram. And there a scribe appeared. He said, Sir, you have been singing for so long. There is nobody to write down the verses that you sing. And along the praises. And at one point, it was a neatly stacked, box of palm leaves. So they used to write on palm leaves only in the olden days. So all those manuscripts were kept near the Garbhagriha of Lord Nataraja at Chidambaram, and the scribe was nowhere to be found. And then it is told in the Purana that Shiva himself came as a scribe, and he wrote down all the verses that Manikavasagar sung, and he just disappeared. So that is how Thiruvasagam came to us. And then on one fine day, Manikavasagar, he lived a fulfilled life and he merged into Shiva. So this is how the story of the saint goes. It's a very interesting story, as you can see. It's full of yogic and philosophical metaphors. So the horses turning into foxes. Actually, the foxes turning into horses, which again turned into foxes. So this is a yogic metaphor in the Tamil Shiva tradition. So in fact, even before the time of Manikavasagar, this metaphor is mentioned in the Shiva poetry. Narigalai kudirai seivani. Oh, you are the one who makes foxes into horses. So this is one of the praises attributed to Shiva. So Narigalai parigalakuvar. Nari pariyana kadai. It's rhyming also. Nari means fox, pari means horse. So a fox, generally in the Indian folklore, right? A fox or a jackal is like a cunning animal, full of it's a wild creature. Right? In all the Panchatantra stories, we always see the jackal. So the jiva who is still full of what is called impurities, mala, in the Shaivite tradition, the Anava, Kanva and Maya. They call these as three malas, or the impurities. So those jivas are like foxes. So through the grace of Shiva, the foxes turn into horses, and the horse, which is always Ashwa, is a symbol of power and spiritual ascent. So the Ashwamedha Yajna itself in the Upanishad is spoken as an ascent of a jiva into the higher spiritual realms. So these foxes turning into horses is nothing but the ascent of jiva, freed from his impurities and going towards the Shivahood. And then, what about suddenly the horses turning into foxes overnight? So that symbolizes what is called, a fall of a yogi. So the Gita talks about yoga bhrashta, right? A sadhaka who is on the path of yoga, what happens to him if he falls? So Arjuna asks Krishna, and then Bhagavan says that he becomes a yoga bhrashta. So he will be born into the family endowed with spiritual knowledge or yoga in his next birth, and then he will again ascend to yoga. So this is the metaphor of the horses, the foxes turning into horses, and then again foxes. So goes the story of Manikavasagar. And the temple, so I mentioned in course of the story that all the wealth of the Pandya king was used to build a temple. So there is this temple called Atmanatha Swami temple. It's in a place called Auroville. It is somewhere near Puducherry from here, not very far from here. Maybe about 300 kilometers, not even 300 kilometers, about 200 kilometers perhaps, 250 kilometers. It's a beautiful temple. Actually, I had pictures of the temple in the presentation. So the temple's symbolism, yeah, you can show it here. These are some of the. So the temple, the deity himself is called Atmanatha. It's a very interesting name. So we have many names of Shiva all over. Atmanatha means Lord of the Self. So this whole temple at Auroville has a lot of mystic significance. In fact, people who are on the yogic path, they must visit this temple. And this temple doesn't have any of the regular features that you see in a Shiva temple. For example, there is no Nandi, there is no Dhvajastambha, what is called. So in all the Shiva temples that you visit here in Tamil Nadu, you will see a big flag pole, a flag staff, right? It is called Dhvajastambha in front of the main shrine. So that feature is not there. And there is the Devi is called Yogambika, the mother of yoga. And the temple has a Shakti Pitha as part of it, which is supposed to be spiritually very vibrant. And the sage Manikavasagar is given as much adoration as Shiva himself. In fact, during the annual festival in the temple, in all the temples, you will see Shiva and Parvati riding the Nandi. So in this temple, you see Manikavasagar riding the Nandi. It is not Shiva, it is the devotee himself. So there is really no difference. There is no duality at all. So it is Manikavasagar who is decorated in so many ways, and he rides the Nandi during the annual festival. So this temple still exists. It's a beautiful temple. It has got brilliant sculptures. In fact, one of the pillar sculptures is that of a horseman. So in Tamil we call as Parimel Alagan, the handsome one who came on the horse. That's what it means. And there are sculptures of Manikavasagar. So that's how the iconography. So iconographically, this is how Manikavasagar is represented. Like he is shown as a guru with a chinmudra in one hand, and in the other hand he is holding a book. So usually in a standing posture. And there are beautiful bronzes of Manikavasagar in many temples of Tamil Nadu. Now we will meditate on some of the verses of Thiruvasagam. There is one verse which goes, Tandadu Tannai, Kondaden Tannai, Shankara, Argulo Sadura. You gave yourself, got me, O Shankara, who is smart. You gave yourself, you got me, O Shankara, who is smart. I got never-ending bliss. What single thing you got from me? Andamundrilla Anandam Petre, Yadini Petradundri Empar. I got never-ending bliss. What single thing you got from me? Sindaye Koyil Kondayam Peruman, Thirupperunthurayurai Shivani. O Shiva, residing at Thirupperunturai, my Lord, who has abode in my mind. Endaye Isa, Udalidam Kondan, Yan Idakkilan or Kaimari. My father, Isha, you took my body as your residence. Oh, my father, Isha, you took my body as your residence. I do not have anything in return for this favor. Yan Idarkilan or Kaimari. What can I give you anything in return for this? So this beautiful poem, which is jovially talks about the anugraha that Shiva bestowed on Manikavasagar. So you gave yourself to me, you got me, but in this business only I am the gainer. It's not a win-win situation, it's a lose-win situation. I won you, but you lost yourself to me. So this is how he speaks to Shiva. And there is this Shiva Puranam, which I mentioned. The Shiva Puranam is the first chapter of Thiruvasagam. This is the most popularly chanted portion of Thiruvasagam. So first it starts with the praise of Shiva and everything, and then it talks about a spiritual journey of Jiva towards Shiva. So there are some nice lines from that which I will read out now. So it goes something like this. Yellayondrinmai iladane nin perumchir Pollavinayen pugalumaru ondrariyen Pullagi pudai puduvai maramagi Palmirgamagi paravayai pambagi கல்லாய் மணி வல்லசுரராகி முனிவராய் தேவராய் கல்லாய் மனிதராய் பேயாய் கணங்களாய் செல்லா நின்ற இத்தாவர ஜங்கமத்துள் எல்லா பிறப்பும் பிறந்திழைத்தேன் எம்பெருமான். மெய்யே உன் பொன்னடிகள் கண்டின்று வீடுற்றேன் உய்ய என் உள்ளத்துள் ஓங்காரமாய் நின்ற மெய்யா. This is how it goes. So these lines mean you are infinite, you are boundless. I, the base one of evil karma, Pulla Vinaye, know not the way to narrate your immense glory. Pugalumaru Ondariye. I became grass and herbs, worm and tree. I became many beasts, bird and snake. I became stone and man, goblins and sundry devas. I became mighty asuras, silent sages. Taken form in life, movable and immovable, born in all, I am weary of birth, O great Lord, he says. So, it is said that, how many lives that we have taken in previous births to get into a human body. So, this is one common theme in Hindu spirituality, which many sages have spoken. So, there is, there are small life forms like grass, tree, and then insects, reptiles, birds, beasts, and then there is human. So, irrespective of what the theory of evolution says, that's biological evolution. There is also this idea of spiritual evolution. In fact, Sri Aurobindo opines that the spiritual evolution process has not stopped. Right? He talks about supra mind, and so the human evolution towards divinity is not stopped, he says. So here also the Manikavasagar says, Pullagi, Pudai, Puluvai, Maramagi, Pal Virgamagi, Paravayai, Pambai, Kallai, Manidarai, Peyai, Ganangalai, Yella Pirappum Pirandilaithen, Yemberuman. He says, taken form in life, movable and immovable, born in all, I am weary of birth, O great Lord. There is another poem, which is about prayer, about seeking. So, this poem's beauty is literally untranslatable in English. Still, I have made an attempt. So, in Tamil, it goes like this. Vendattakkadu arivoi nee, venda muzhudum tharuvoi nee, வேண்டும் அயன்மார்க்கு அறியோய் நீ, வேண்டி என்னை பணிகொண்டாய், வேண்டி நீ யாது அருள் செய்தாய், யானும் அதுவே வேண்டி நல்லால், வேண்டும் பரிசு ஒன்று உண்டென்னில், அதுவும் உன்றன் இருப்பன்றே. You see the words vendum, vendum, vendum coming again and again, right? So this is a common word. Even in today's Tamil language, we use it. What does vendum mean? Vedum, I want, I seek. So the meaning of this verse goes like this. You know what I should seek for. You know what I should seek for. You wholly grant what I seek for. You wholly grant what I seek for. Unto Vishnu and Brahma that seek you, you are hard to reach. Unto Brahma and Vishnu who seek you, you are hard to reach. Seeking me with your own will, you made me serve you. Whatever you seek to bless me with, I seek nothing but that. Whatever you seek to bless me with, I desire nothing but that. If yet I seek anything, it's not that indeed your own seeking. If yet I seek anything, it's not that indeed your own seeking or your own desire. So this is the translation of that poem. So many a times people in their prayers keep seeking worldly things. During the exam time, you see the crowding of students in temples everywhere, and there are all kinds of pariharas, the pujas and the yajnas conducted by the worldly devout everywhere. But a true person who is into spirituality, you rarely, when I go to a temple, no words, I don't even pray, I just keep looking at the image. That's all it is. The darshan is like its own fruit. So this poem describes the devotional mindset of a true devotee. Sometimes very interesting expressions of devotional poetry. Interestingly, all these are modeled after the games that girl children play in their childhood. There is this thing called Thiruvasagam. So Ammanai means So it's like a ball passing game. Okay. So a girl sings a song, and Ammanai, she passes the ball to the next girl. So these games, this game was actually played in the olden days. It has disappeared. So Manikavasakar has written Thiruvasagam, where there is a praise of Shiva. There are 10 songs, each with a praise of Shiva, ending with Ammanai, Ammanai, like that. And there is another thing called Thiruponnusan. So when girls used to swing, they will tie ropes in a tree and they will joyously swing back and forth. They will sing songs. So these songs were called Unjal songs, the songs for swinging. So he has written similar songs called Thiruponnusan, singing the glory of Shiva. So there is another thing called Thiruporchunnam, like while pounding the fragrant powders, called chunnam, they will just pound with that pestle, right? They used to pound and they will hold their hand like this, they will circle around, they will sing songs. So he has written songs of that kind, singing the glory of Shiva. And then there is this Thiruvempaavai, which is sung in the month of Margali, the snowy months, December, January. It is still sung in all Shiva temples. So basically the girls go from house to house, they wake up the other girls, singing the praise of Shiva. Let's go bathe in the river. And then, so this is like the devotees waking up each other. And then there is Tirupalli Ezhuchi, which is like a Suprabhatam. It is asking the Lord to wake up and bless the world. So that he has written. And there is a verbal dual game. It's a very interesting one called Tirucharal, where one girl poses a riddle, the other girl answers that. So this was a game played. So the entire Shiva Tattva he has expressed through this verbal duel in Thiruvasagam. So just one verse from that I will give as a sample. So the first girl asks, Koyil Sudugadu, Kol Pulithol Nallade, Tayumili Tandayili, Tan Taniyan Kanedi. So she says, oh, his place is the cremation ground. His goodly garment It's tiger skin. You know, he is motherless and fatherless. All alone he dwells. See, my dear, she says. So it is like saying, who is this Shiva? He just lives in the cremation ground, he wears tiger skin, you know. So this Shiva being Anadi. So Vishnu in all his avatars are born to parents, right? So you have Kausalya and Dasharatha, you have Vasudeva and Devaki. But one glory of Shiva is that he is motherless and fatherless. In fact, in a lot of Tamil Shaiva poetry, this is used as a sarcasm. Oh, you are an orphan. How are you going to help me? You are motherless and fatherless. So in a similar way, so here this first girl says, motherless and fatherless, see, my dear. So then the other girl answers, Tayumili Tandayili Than Taniyanayidinum. True, motherless and fatherless. He is, all alone he dwells. But if he be at wrath, the worlds will crumble to powder. See, my dear, she says. See, he is the Samhara Murti. You know, the whole world fears Rudra. So, even if there is a slight wrath on his part, the whole world will crumble to powder. Don't you realize that? Don't you realize his power? So, this is how it goes. So these songs are very delightful to sing, you know, in Thiruvasagam. It's a very delightful part. So coming to the last chapter, last part of Thiruvasagam, it is called Acho Padiham. So in Tamil, Acho means ah. That's what it literally means. Ha. So in my translation, I had actually called it as the ah poem. So the last one, it goes like this. Mukti neri ariyada murkarudu muyalvenai Patti neri arivittu palavinaigal paarum vannam Chittamala marivittu Shivamakkiyana yanda Attanena karuliyavar Arberuvar Achove. So every one of these hymns ends with Achove, Achove. The devotee keeps saying. So this is the meaning of this verse. I was mixing closely with the intractable ones who knew not the way of mukti. I was mixing closely with the intractable ones who knew not the way of mukti. He revealed to me the path of bhakti. He revealed to me the path of bhakti. He so snapped the mala inherent in my chitta. He so snapped the mala inherent in my chitta that my old karma stood uprooted. He made me Shivam and rules me. He made me Shivam and rules me. Ah, who will come by the gracious way that I was blessed by Shiva? Ah, who will come by the gracious way that I was blessed with by Shiva? So this hymn, it is actually part of the ritual. So in all the major Shiva temples in Tamil Nadu, so when they close the temples, after all the ceremonies of the day are over, there is this ceremony called Palliyarai. You know, Palliyarai means basically it is the bedroom. Palliyarai literally means bedroom. So the Shiva's Murti, small bronze vigraha of Shiva taken in a palanquin, it is actually taken to the Sannidhi of Devi. Okay? So there is a small, richly decorated room just adjoining the sanctum of the Devi. That is called Palliyarai. So there will be a small Murti of Devi there. So they take this Shiva with a beautiful lilting music with Nadaswaram, and there will be with dhoop and all. They take Shiva in the palanquin, and when it reaches the Devi shrine, the Shiva's murti is taken out and placed by the side of Devi. So when they take the Shiva's murti in the palanquin, this hymn is sung, the Acho hymn. In fact, there will be Nadaswaram, and there will be that singer, Oduvar, we call him. He will sing. So every line end with this line, ah, who will know the gracious way by which Shiva blessed me with his way. So this hymn is sung. And in the Palliyarai, when the murtis are placed, there will actually be a swing. The priest will slowly move that swing, and the Tiruponnusal, the swing song from Thiruvasagam, is sung in at that time. So these verses are actually part of the daily ritual in the temple, in the Shiva temples. So that ends my talk. So 2 words about the translations of Thiruvasagam, before we open it for any questions that you may have. So in the year 1900, Thiruvasagam was translated into English by one British missionary evangelist called G.U. Pope. So a lot of Tamils go gaga over this fact that, oh, he translated Thiruvasagam. But the scholars and even someone who is lightly, familiar with the Shiva philosophy, the translation is filled with distortions and misinterpretation and intentional usage of terms from Christian theology to describe ideas in Thiruvasagam. So what happened is, once G.U. Pope did these translations, so the later Christian evangelists of Tamil Nadu caught on from there. So they further extended it, and then they started saying, oh, these devotional ideas could have come from Christianity. And then there are even attempts at appropriating Thiruvasagam as some kind of a Christian hymn, etc. So this is a very bad trend that is happening to a lot of Indian traditions. So we have to be careful before praising somebody without fully knowing what their intentions are. And then there is a more recent translation in the 1993 by Dr. T.L. Ramachandran. It's a brilliant translation. It is published by International Institute of Tamil, Chennai. And the whole translation is available online in a website called thevaram.org. thevaram.org. So all the 12 Tirumurais are there in that website. You click on the 8th Tirumurai, which is Thiruvasagam. You can read the translation along with the Tamil verses one by one. The website is not so well designed. You have to navigate your way through it. Okay, so there is Tamil verse, and then there are Tamil commentary followed by English translation, like that. So there ends my talk. So if there are questions.